In this video, we're going to take a look at image-based lighting. Now, image-based lighting allows us to import an image and use it as a background sky. We can then tell that sky to project light into our scene. Now, this makes for a very photorealistic render because it's actually using the intensities from the image that we bring in. So in this particular case, as we look here at our little city, if we were to find an image of a city and then apply it here, we'll get very realistic lighting because it'll match the environment that we have modeled here in 3D. Now, we cannot use just any ordinary image that we find. The specific type of image that we're looking for is a high dynamic range intensity image, HDRI, or just HDR. We can find these on the internet and download them and put them in here. The particular image that I'm going to use here today, I got from openfootage.net, and they have a wide variety of different HDR maps. To add our HDR, or our IBL node, I'm going to go to the render settings. And let's bring this up here and make this a little bit smaller. And we'll choose the indirect lighting tab. Here you can see we have image-based lighting. When we choose create, we will get an IBL node. Through this node, I can then apply my HDR image. Before I do that, let's create a render so that we can see what this scene looks like prior to adding that HDR image. And let's make sure that we have some sort of light going on in there, otherwise it'll just show up as black. So I'm going to enable my default light, and we'll choose render. And we get a very basic, very simple looking scene here, very computer generated. Let's save this image, and then we'll minimize our render view there. And now let's come back and choose that indirect lighting. Prior to doing this, I will turn off this default light. And the main reason to do this here is because that default light will interfere with our image-based lighting node. By default, what Maya will do, if it doesn't see a light, it'll use this default light. So if I were to create a light through here, then this default light wouldn't be active anymore. The indirect lighting IBL node is not picked up by Maya. It doesn't recognize it as a light source. So therefore, it's important that we turn this off, otherwise it will remain active. And we'll just double check. I'll hit render again. And without that default light, our world is black. That's exactly what we're looking for. And now I'll choose the indirect lighting tab, and we'll go to image-based lighting, and we will create that IBL node. And let's close up the render settings. And now I can see that IBL node out there. And let's take a look. Let's switch to a different view here. I'm going to go to my perspective 1, just a new perspective camera that was created. And we'll zoom out here a bit. And I'm going to go to shaded mode here. And as I zoom out all the way, what we can see is that the IBL node is just a large sphere, but it is a special type of sphere. And in it, with it selected, we have a browser here for adding that HDR image. So I'm going to choose that, and we'll just load that up. And now the image is placed on that sphere for us automatically. We don't have to worry about laying out UVs or making sure that it's mapping correctly there. And now that image will be used for our lighting. So let's switch back to our perspective. And I'm going to go into our shape node for our IBL. And we want to turn on emit light. This will then force that IBL node to create light intensities and illuminate our scene. We'll leave the quality right there just set to 0.2. And we don't need to make any other modifications. We'll go back up and hit render. Our render has finished. It took 56 seconds in order for that to complete the entire render. But we can see in contrast, when we used the default light, we had this. Then when we added our IBL node and turned on emit light, we get this. you can see the heavy shadows that occur and the really dynamic lighting that is bouncing into our scene. Now, the shadows right now are really low quality, and we can see that they're very grainy. To fix that, we need to up the emission quality here. Now, I won't re-render the entire scene. We'll just kind of look at a small section, and we'll just draw a marquee right here. And let's take our quality up to 0.8, and we'll be able to see a major difference here in how that shadow is being displayed. So let's save that image, and then I'll choose Render Region. Our render has finished, and we can now see that the shadow is really cleaned up. We're not getting all of the grain that we had there before. And now we have a nice smooth transition across the surface. Now, increasing the quality will also increase our render time, and that's also why I created a small separate region here to render as opposed to re-rendering the entire image, as it would probably take several minutes as opposed to the 56 seconds it originally took. Now, we can also turn off our background image. So if I don't actually want to see that cityscape back there, we can go down to our render stats and turn the primary visibility off. This will drop that out of the environment and just render with the background color, which in this case, it'll pick up the background color of the camera, which is set to black. Now, that will not interfere with the lighting at all. We'll still get the same exact lighting setup. I'm going to go back up here and let's just take this quality back down so we can render decently. And we'll just set it to its default there of 0.2. And I'm going to turn on Adjust Environment Color Effects and click on the color gain here. And I'm going to up this. Let's up it just to 3. And I will also turn that primary visibility back on just so that you can see the effects of this out here. And we'll do a render of that region. So here we can see that the color gain of the image is heightened, but the illumination is not. So when we adjust environment color effects through the color gain, we're only affecting that background image, and we are not affecting the amount of light that is being produced into our scene.